Hey guys, my name is Dice Rollin. Today we're going to be looking at a different kind of pint-sized childhood killer. Benny Loves You was written and directed by Karl Holt, who also plays the lead role. It was released on May 7th of this year. It's about a man deciding to officially grow up and by doing so either throws away or packs up a majority of his childhood belongings. One of his most cherished plushies comes to life. And while he is a rather goofy and innocent creature, he also has a murderous streak. So without further ado, this is my review of Benny Loves You. The movie begins with,
I want Barella now!
I'm against violence against children, I'm against violence against children, but this is a demon. No, actually, this is Ashley, played by Bella Monday, who is the bane of her mother, played by Jennifer Healy's, existence. You know the type. Always gets what she wants because she complains to the highest degree if she doesn't. This is why I feel little to no remorse for her when her teddy bear, that she had previously shunned in favor of a new toy, comes to life and murders her. Now that the tone is set, we're introduced to our main character, Jack, played by Karl Holt. He's essentially a man-child who's failing in his career of making toys. For obvious reasons.
Dancing Disco AIDS!
Things actually get worse when, while preparing for a surprise party for Jack, both his parents, played by Greg Page, and Catriona MacDonald, get the Final Destination / Saw experience. On the downside, that's a hell of a thing to happen on your 35th birthday. On the upside, Jack's finally not living with his parents anymore. Problem is, Jack's now got to deal with a looming foreclosure on the house, which means that he needs to pull out all the stops on trying to get a promotion at the toy box. Of course, you've got to have that one prick in the workplace that makes it difficult. In this case, it's Richard, played by George Colley, who seems to be favored by the boss over Jack. Speaking of the boss, Ron, played by James Parsons, is looking for Jack according to Richard. This leads to a cat and mouse chase scene that's simultaneously kind of creepy, and is oddly relatable to a lot of people with bosses. Ron threatens to fire Jack because his toy ideas just aren't of the times, but he offers him a lower position with less pay that Jack is pretty much forced to accept. Along with his new job, he needs to provide a better toy idea by Friday, or he really will be fired. In order to start this new portion of his life, Jack decides to start dressing more like an adult, with an office job, put his house up for sale, and pack up all his childhood things, including Benny, who has been his companion ever since his mother gave him to him as a kid.
Benny loves you!
I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting corrupted Elmo vibes from this thing. Since Jack has placed Benny in the solitary box of confinement, in the basement the same force that brought Ashley's bear to murderous life has entered Benny. Translation: Jack fucked up.
Press my tummy to make me laugh.
With such carnage, Jack calls the police. Something tells me this isn't the most bizarre call they've received. Friday arrives and Jack still doesn't have any good ideas. But that's okay because the new tech engineer, Dawn, played by Claire Cartwright, steps up to provide an excuse for him. That night, after struggling with more severe creative block, Jack finds the head of David, his account manager, in his bed. Benny comes prancing in and shows Jack that it was him who killed David. More than that, Jack finds the next morning that Benny has prepared a breakfast scene that would be right at home with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. To make matters worse, the police have returned, having forgotten their camera during their last visit. So Jack scrambles to clean up this latest crime scene before letting them in. The policeman asks Jack about the whereabouts of David, and Jack tells them he hasn't seen him. So they leave without discovering his body, giving all the other cops in horror movies a run for their money, huh? Jack has a bit of a chat with Benny, telling him that he can stay as long as he doesn't kill anyone else. There is something good that Benny has spurred on though, as Jack gets an idea for a new line of homicidal-themed toys. Sounds about right. Ron likes Jack's idea for dead friends, so he approves it. And we get a montage of the progress that Jack, Benny, and Dawn go through in making the toys a reality. Things are really looking up for Jack as Ron wants him to present the toys in New York, and Dawn wants to have a date at his place. However, at the same time, the realtor, Phil, played by David Wayman, has stopped by the house with Jack's ex-almost-girlfriend, Tara, played by Lydia Howard, and Benny's not thrilled about that. With Phil dead and Tara hiding in the attic, Jack, once again, has some gardening to do, and general cleanup. If the toy thing doesn't work out, he could always go into crime scene cleanup at this point. Jack can't spend too much time reprimanding Benny, since he has to get ready for his date with Dawn. So back in the basement Benny goes. Oh, and he also has to look after Ron's beloved pug, Precious. Listen, I've had enough experience to know that any creature that is related to the word precious is bad news. And speaking of bad news, I would like to take a moment to appreciate that mini chainsaw. Okay, let's continue, because Benny is channeling Jack Torrance apparently. And that axe is producing sparks on the wood floor. How? Apparently, Dawn has also had an experience with a killer toy in a doll she had when she was younger. Due to its demonic nature, her father was killed. But Jack's too distracted to be listening to this traumatic tale, as Benny has taken care of Precious. Needless to say, Jack ain't gonna be able to come out of this in a clean fashion. Yeah, so Jack is fired. And on top of that, the police aren't looking at him too fondly either, since they found selfies of Benny and what was left of David on their camera. Upon returning home, Jack finds that Benny has prepared a surprise birthday party for him, but he's not at all happy with Benny about essentially ruining his life. Seeing that Jack is upset, Benny gives him a gift, and that gift happens to be Ron tied up with a literal bow. Jack takes this opportunity to blackmail Ron into giving him a promotion and increasing his salary. Unfortunately, Benny fucks this up again by killing Ron. Now Jack has but one choice. He buries Benny. After a montage of Jack having a mental breakdown, Dawn shows up and he makes amends with her over their spectacularly failed date night. They then spend the night together while Benny rises from his miniature grave seeking revenge. The next morning, Jack returns to the toy box building realizing that Benny has followed Dawn there. He attempts to convince everyone that Benny's not only alive, but highly bloodthirsty. Obviously, no one believes him, until he stabs Richard. Dawn, Jack, and Richard flee, so fuck everyone else, I guess. Now it's time to come up with a plan to destroy Benny.
Why didn't you put him in the fire?
My point exactly. They take some inspiration from Kevin McAllister, but Benny still gains entry. So Jack uses the modified AIDS robot to combat him. While Benny is beating the shit out of the robot, Dawn and Richard have their own demons to worry about. Richard doesn't fare so well with his robot literally sucking his guts out. Meanwhile, Dawn obliterates her doll. Jack is faced with Benny, but when Richard's robot comes after him, Benny turns to defend Jack. Once the robot is successfully defended against, Benny goes after Dawn. Jack reasons with him and apologizes. He does intend to kill Benny, however Dawn prevents him from doing so. And Benny launches himself out the window to face the policeman outside. Apparently BB guns are enough to stop a possessed plushie. Who knew? It is Britain after all, no guns allowed. So Benny is dead, Richard is blamed for the many murders that were committed, and Jack moves out of his parents' house with Dawn. With the knowledge that Tara died in that attic, the credits roll. I have mixed feelings about this one. I really didn't know where to start with summarizing my thoughts on Benny Loves You. The plot of the film isn't new, per se. Obviously, we've seen the whole child-friendly toy come to life and going on a murdering spree before. But that doesn't mean it can't go its own way and provide an original way of telling the story. I feel like I was thrown off a bit by the humor and how it mixed with the more serious moments. It is British humor though, and that does tend to throw me off from time to time. It's brutal, but still has some surprisingly touching moments. It has its own style of humor that I can't quite compare to anything else. I did find myself chuckling here and there throughout, at just how ridiculous what was happening seemed, and imagining what could possibly happen next. I went back and forth about the special effects while watching this. My initial reaction was, ooh. Still a touch better than Sci-Fi Channel movies and Willy's Wonderland though. I wasn't fooled at any point that any of the toys that had come to life were actual living things. The blood was also quite obviously fake. I have to give props to Karl Holt because he not only wrote, directed, and starred in this, he also produced, edited, and worked on the cinematography with John Bowe. I was hesitant about what I was going to get from him in the main role, but I ended up being kind of impressed. Perhaps it wasn't fantastic acting, but I found it to be decent. And his portrayal of Jack didn't bring me out of the story. As far as Benny's concerned, you're probably going to get mildly annoyed after a while with his repeated dialogue. To be honest, I thought everyone was pretty decent with their acting skills. Some came across as a bit rigid and stiff here and there, but not bad. I couldn't find a specific name attached to the soundtrack and scoring. Perhaps John Bowe had a hand in that. It was alright, and I liked how it stood out from the movie, and melded with it for the tone of each scene, with the montages having the most prominent songs. I can't say I found any of the atmosphere to be particularly scary. Nothing stood out to me as far as settings and such goes. Again, that's not to say that any of it was bad, it just wasn't very noteworthy to me. It did fine for the mood of the scenes. With all that being said, I'm giving Benny Loves You 4.5 out of 10 bloody thumbs up. I really don't see myself adding Benny Loves You to my collection. It was entertaining, but perhaps not a favorite of mine. I still give credit to those involved for creating it. I can clearly see the creativity and love that was put into it. I don't know what the budget was for it, but I do know that it was a low budget film, so that just adds to the respect I have for the cast and crew. It's an odd little film that goes off the damn walls and intentionally over the top, and throws a dark twist in there. It is absolutely ridiculous, and it knows it. It's not afraid to make you go, what the hell? And the next moment delve into some grotesque shit. I feel like this is a movie that people either love or hate. I don't count myself in the love category, but I don't hate it. The message that I got from this was essentially about how you eventually have to grow up, but that doesn't mean you have to stop being a kid in some respects. It's important to keep that childlike essence of yourself, or else it might kill you. But maybe I'm looking too deeply into it. I would recommend Benny Loves You to fans of killer toys, people who love crazy and bloody/gory movies, people who like British horror, and anyone who would like to see Elmo's distant cousin end some people. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like to let me know. Don't forget to leave a comment down below telling me what you thought of this movie. And if you have any suggestions for horror movies you would like to see me review in the future. You can support the channel through my Patreon, where you would also get early access to videos like this. Also, don't forget to share this video to help the channel grow, and subscribe for more videos like this. See you later.
But whatever you do, under any circumstances, don't throw him out. Or the next time you curl up to sleep, he might just come back for a cuddle.